Thank you for joining me on this 5th episode of the LAVA Spurt, the Murder is Murder edition, where we talk about all of the violence that we've seen lately on the streets.
Welcome to the LAVA Spurt, the weekly offshoot of the lava flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Brought to you by my per-episode donors. Thank you. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
What a crazy week last week was, with several people murdered by cops and several cops murdered by a crazy person. The New York Post ran their cover with the words Civil War. Talk about the media creating the narrative by trying to add fuel to the fire. Jesus. This year alone, there have been at least 622 people killed by police already, with at least 41 since the beginning of July. Last year, there were more than 1,200 total people killed by police. This year, there have been 26 police officers murdered in the line of duty, with 11 of those being this month, including the 5 from Dallas. And last year, there were 42 total. So USA Today is reporting that there is a 44% increase year-to-date so far after those 5 killed in Dallas. And let me be clear, murder is murder. I don't care who's doing it. I don't care if you're a thug with a 30-page rap sheet, a regular Joe, or a cop with a shiny badge. If you kill somebody who is not an immediate threat to you or another human being, then you are a murderer, plain and simple. The murder of 5 police officers in Dallas by a crazy motherfucker is just as horrendous and unjustified as the murder of Philando Castile by a man in a costume. But confronting violence with violence will never get you anywhere either. Dr. Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi understood this very well. The murder of 5 police officers in Dallas did nothing to further the cause of those trying to stop the violence and militarization of police. As a matter of fact, it had the opposite effect. This now gives police officers and departments more reason to militarize even further in the interests of protecting themselves. It will also make them even more nervous and give them more reason to shoot first and ask questions later. This is not good for anybody. Another reason why these murders in Dallas are a bad idea is that it rallies public support behind the police. Public support has always been very high behind the street gang in blue, but that has slowly been eroding over the last couple of years as many high-profile cases of police brutality and murder have been in the public view, thanks to the proliferation of smartphone cameras in everybody's pockets and phone apps like Cell 411 and BAM User that protect and store that video in the instance of a cop getting control of the phone. The tide was finally turning on this sea of support for the police. That is, until Michael Xavier Johnson went on his murderous rampage in Dallas. And finally, murdering cops who are no immediate threat to anyone means that you no longer have the moral high ground. You have given up your ability to say that you are on the right side of this issue, and it makes those non-violent people in the movement look bad and leaves a stain on what they've done in the name of peace. These actions severely set back any progress made in the non-violent protests and demonstrations that have gone so far in putting this issue in front of everybody. And while we're on the topic, if you're looting or destroying private property in a peaceful demonstration, this goes the same for you. You're not cool. You're not hurting the people that are the cause of the problem. You're just a dick. Now, I have friends on both sides of this issue, and let me tell you, I've seen some of the most disgusting, virulent comments from both sides of this argument. I have seen self-described libertarians call for the murder of more police. I have seen cops and former cops say that Alton Sterling and Philando Castile got what they deserved. When I called them on it, people on both sides even made threats against me because I disagree with them. This type of violent rhetoric is what I mean when I talk about the moral high ground. If one side is calling for more death and destruction, then they are the ones that look like the violent assholes, and you have the moral high ground. However, if you're also calling for murder or violence, then you're just as wrong as the other side, and you have already lost. And let's be clear about one more thing. If your form of protest involves standing in the middle of an interstate and stopping the average Joe from getting to work on time, getting home to their family, making a living driving their truck, or stopping an ambulance from getting to a hospital, then you're also a dick. There is no quicker way to get the average Joe to be against you than pulling some dick move like this. If you want to have an effect by blocking something off, go block off access in and out of a police station or a jail. Why fuck with the average Joe who could be on your side if you weren't screwing with his day or his paycheck or his life, instead of fucking with the police who are the cause of this issue? Again, there is no moral high ground here for these sorts of protesters. And speaking of moral high ground again, the police get zero moral high ground when they arrest people for expressing their outrage on social media for the atrocities committed by police. The Detroit Police Department arrested 4 different men last week for posting their disgust on social media. This has also happened recently in New Jersey, Connecticut, Illinois, and other places. People are pissed, and they're disgusted by what they've seen lately. But arresting people for expressing their disgust is only going to make this entire situation worse for everyone. Not to mention that this is against everything we believe in. It is using force against someone who expressed their opinion on a situation. It is the definition of the initiation of force. Now, I want to leave you with a few words from men who have fought a nonviolent revolution and won. Dr. Martin Luther King said, quote, "Violence never brings permanent peace. It solves no social problem. It merely creates new and more complicated ones. Violence is impractical because it is a descending spiral, ending in destruction for all. It is immoral because it seeks to humiliate the opponent rather than win his understanding. It seeks to annihilate rather than convert. Violence is immoral because it thrives on hatred rather than love. It destroys community and makes brotherhood impossible. It leaves society in monologue rather than dialogue. Violence ends up defeating itself. It creates bitterness in the survivors and brutality in the destroyers." Mahatma Gandhi said this, "Nonviolence is the greatest force at the disposal of mankind. It is mightier than the mightiest weapon of destruction devised by the ingenuity of man. Nonviolence is not to be used ever as the shield of a coward. It is the weapon of the brave." So the best way to end the violence that we are seeing daily now, not only between cops and people, but also between people and other people in the inner cities, is to end the drug war completely. The drug war is what has led to the militarization of police and the us versus them mentality. It's also what has led directly to the violence that we're seeing today. If you get a chance, I implore you to pick up the book, Rise of the Warrior Cop, The Militarization of America's Police Forces by Radley Balco, for a good look at the history of the drug war and how it's led directly to what we're seeing today. I promise that you won't be disappointed. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.